Welcome to Continue Mission Radio with Captain James McCormick. By veterans, for veterans. Guest hosts tonight are author Greg Meakin and Miss Val, our military radio gal. Continue Mission starts now.
You got me headed to the left, headed to the right, headed back and forth, but baby, it's alright. You got me going to the east, going to the west, going up and down, cause baby, you know best. All day, all night, running around, I'm never gonna stop because you never settle down. Got me shooting into space, flying at the sun. I'm never coming back, cause baby, you're the...
Welcome to another rapid deployment of Continue Mission on the Veteran Channel. I am Val Olson, and I am here once again around my kitchen table with the one, the only Greg Meakin. Today, we are broadcasting live from the great state of Arizona. For over a decade, Continue Mission has been produced by veterans for veterans. So let's light the fuse. Buckle up, everyone. Greg Meakin, what is on your heart today?
Miss Val, our military radio. What's on my heart today? The men and women of the United States military, our United States military, many of whom, as we speak, are in harm's way as we speak. And to the 6 heroes that paid the ultimate price in the past week, we salute you. We thank you. You gave your lives for our country. And not every young person would be able to say they have the courage to do that. That's kind of what is on my heart today, Val. Are you okay on sound-wise here? Because I'm getting an echo on my end.
I'm hearing, a little bit of an echo. It's not too bad, but if you wanted to step out for a minute and come back in, we could definitely try that. I don't think it would hurt.
Sure. We'll get the show started, if that's okay, because we've got... Boy, we got a special guest today, Miss Val. We got a secret guest today. This is a gentleman who we've actually worked with. We've been online in some of the military luncheons, the VVA luncheons and stuff, and we've actually featured the VVA, Vietnam Veterans of America, on previous episodes. And this gentleman is one of the team. One of the wolf pack of the Vietnam Veterans of America. He's becoming a friend because we work closely with him. Sooner rather than later, I'm just going to introduce him. Ladies and gentlemen, Dominick Yezzo. Dominick Yezzo, let's bring you on the screen.
Hey, good afternoon, Valerie and Greg. Thanks for having me here. I'm delighted to join you both.
You look great. And I can't thank you enough for making the time. All you guys back there are busy boys. Just like the president, he's a busy guy these days. But I'd love to have you on. I thank you so much for being on the show. This indeed is Continue Mission on the Veteran Channel. And you're right in the middle of all of it, Dominick. Before we get kind of meat and potatoes, we got a full hour here. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. I'd like to talk about your book. I'd like to talk about a little bit of your past, Vietnam and stuff. But for this moment, just take a few minutes, if you would. Give our listeners and our viewers and folks that would be listening to this on shares and relays down the road, tell people who you are. Dominick Yezzo, quick introduction, and just go through a quick bio here for you.
Of course. My name is Dominick Yezzo, and I'm General Counsel for the Vietnam Veterans of America. I also serve as the Veterans Incarcerated and in the Justice System Chair. Both of those endeavors are national in scope, and they're focused on what we can do for veterans and their families. I'm New York City born and raised. I work and live in New York City. I am based back and forth from Washington, D.C. With the Vietnam Veterans of America, where our headquarters are. And it's in Washington where some of our work is pressed forward, especially our legislative prowess. As an attorney and as a former administrative law judge, I serve as a reckoning for what is legal, what is not, and as a strategist for President Tom Burke and for the rest of the organization. And I commend so many of us for what we do, for what we are, for what we stand for, and for what we have achieved for veterans and their families. We are not going away. We're aged, including myself. However, the older I get, the more I'm involved in this and the more energy I seem to find to devote to this advocacy for veterans and for veteran families. We settle everything. We are result oriented, and we don't let any stone remain unturned as a wolf pack of veterans who serve other veterans and their families. And I'm honored and particularly honored to be on your show because you're so focused with us and what we do. I'd like to remind you that the Vietnam Veterans of America is an organization that has got about 100,000 members, a little less than that, but near that. We serve all veterans, however, not just Vietnam veterans. And there are 17.6 million veterans in the United States of America. And there will be more. One of the things I've learned in my lifetime is that our war, the Vietnam War, has not ended violent conflict in the world. There is violent conflict today. And so we're prepared for the service necessary for the returning veterans from this moment in time and from all moments in time. And the particular needs and my particular platform has to do with post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. Those are results of what war does and is, those conditions remain with veterans, and we veterans understand each other more than any other persons or organizations that are well-meaning and give us what they think we need, but we understand what we need intrinsically and amongst ourselves better than anyone ever has and could. There's a brotherhood and a sisterhood there that is remarkable. It remains to be the center of our strength and our dignity as we push forward. We lobby in Congress with strength. If the VA doesn't understand what we're talking about, we make sure that we continue to advocate, change the tone, change the sentence structure, make sure they get it. If they still don't get it, we will sue them because what we do is morally and honorably correct. We serve with moral honor for all veterans and their families. We're Americans, proud. We're veterans, and we speak to the nation of the Pentagon, the Department of War, and the Veterans Administration for partnership. And if partnership doesn't exist there, then I'm prepared to be an adversary. More than that, you can, but by question I'll answer. There's so much more to what I do and how we all do what we do. But I'm here to serve your show. I'm delighted to be on it. I'm delighted to broadcast that I'm a proud veteran of the Vietnam War, and to help all of us in the United States of America remind ourselves who we are, what we do, and why we do it. VVA, the Vietnam Veterans of America, is a bipartisan organization. We take it from wherever it comes, from whatever side of the aisle, is attentive to veterans and their needs, and our advocacy is for the veteran and the veterans' families. We've suffered toxic exposure. We've suffered my war. We came home to a nation that was in turmoil. It didn't understand us. And we had done a good job, a really, really fine job, as a matter of fact. And we got no credit for it. The Vietnam Veterans of America are remarkably placed because in that nation that wanted to forget about us in a hurry, we gave ourselves our own honor, our own dignity, and our own respect. And it wasn't born out of easiness. We started out being the Vietnam Veterans Against the War, and ended up as the greatest organization, not just Vietnam veterans, for all veterans since Abraham Lincoln gave the veterans who returned from the Civil War the opportunity to vend in the streets of Philadelphia and New York City. They got the vending licenses first. Those ones that came home with a bandage on their head and hanging on a cane made out of a twig, and they returned to their families wounded, broken, and misunderstood. Abraham Lincoln gave them an opportunity to make a living. It's that spirit, that idea, and ideas rule the world, right? So it's that idea that we carry forward. We're powerful. Our footprint in America is big. We stand up to anyone, politically, socially, economically, and we make sure that people understand what the result of war is on our men and women in service.
It is so wonderful to hear about the Vietnam Veterans of America. You've been so involved with them and close with them. It's amazing to hear what they are doing today, and more every day to help the veterans. The motto is Vietnam veterans, it'll never happen again.
Well, let's give that its subject and predicate. Sentence starts with a capital, ends with a period, and when there's a conjunction there followed by a pronoun, you need a comma. So let me put all of this in there.
Sure.
Here's our creed: never again will one generation of veterans abandon another.
Right.
That's the sentence. Begins with a capital, ends with a period, and it means everything to us. I wasn't abandoned. When I was wounded in Vietnam, they came to get me. And the people that came to get me did it on their own merit, their own volition. Nobody ordered them to do that. They were brothers. And it's a remarkable honor. I praise all soldiers who, during war, the best in what we are comes out in us individually. And Americans have the best inside them. And it shows itself in the immoral conflict and battle, and in the face of death and trouble and fear. It shows itself more than ever with who we are, what we stand for, and how we care for one another.
Dominick, there's so much we've covered already. You mentioned when you were wounded. I'd like, if we can, to jump branches a little bit and you go into the past a little bit and just share that with folks.
Sure.
And as much or as little as you want to, but I know that was a big experience for you.
Well, I was 19 years old. I'm not that now. A lot has happened since, but the thing about that is with me and with every veteran who was wounded in war, as if the concrete reality of it is right now. It was was that sensual, that what you can see, smell, hear, taste, and touch remains in you, in your nose, in your eyes, in the way you feel, in what you hear, how it tastes in your throat, and it's remarkably present. So I can tell it again because the telling of it softens it, but not so that it loses its shape. It softens it in a way that becomes important because I speak for everyone. So I was wounded off of Camp Evans in Elsie Nancy. I served with the 1st Air Cavalry Division in the G5 section of Civil Affairs and Psychological Operations. In the Army, we call that PSYOPs. And I served at Headquarters Company, which up there and in that base camp was in a bunker with PCP and sandbags leveled and stacked. So that there could be an operations base. It was like a base of operations on a base camp that was carved out in the middle of the jungle between a mountain range and the beach, way up north by the DMZ, and a little bit west of Khe Sanh, and a little bit east of Khe Sanh, and a little bit west of Highway Number 1, which was the highway that went up the coast of Vietnam, from Saigon all the way through Da Nang and up to Hue and up to us. One highway, one lane each way. Anyway, that's the location of that. And there were other landing zones like Elsie Nancy and the such that we worked out of. And so I as a PSYOPs young man, I was an enlisted man. I was drafted into the Army. And just a parenthetical aside, when I was drafted, it was there was the draft range in 1968. They were taking 19,000 men from New York State alone every month. So we were gone, right? We were enlisted. They sent a token and directions to Fort Hamilton, and I was in the Army now. And that was the end of that and the beginning of something else. So anyway, we're all trained well, and we all go to Vietnam, everybody. I was no exception, but I did have the opportunity to work with a PSYOPs unit, which was heady. It was civil affairs and psychological operations. It was counter intuitive to what the enemy thinks about America. It was a program of rhetoric, a program of doing things for the Vietnamese national persons, like going out and inoculating their livestock and helping them with modern advances for growing rice, things like that. We tried unsuccessfully, because rice has been growing there for 1,000 years. We were out in the countryside. A part of what I did was drop leaflets over battle sites, and the leaflets sought to have the enemy, either North Vietnamese or Viet Cong, surrender to us, and we promised them to a better life, to give them an opportunity to understand democracy, that kind of thing. So we also received prisoners or captured persons who were in the opposing armies, and we were out in the world of Vietnam, in that region, trying to change the hearts and minds of the public, the persons who lived in these huts in these little villages, and to let them see that we were the good guys. It was a rhetoric. It was a campaign of import, and it was serious work. in a country that was divided amongst itself. Anyway, that sets the stage. So Camp Evans is a busy place, but it's a camp, and it's on a hill, and three levels of barbed wire, and the place was probed and shelled repeatedly. So it was bad. We took rockets and mortars like three nights out of 5. It was awful, especially not knowing where they came from or how to protect yourself. Not that we didn't know, but yeah, you couldn't control it. That's what I was trying to say. You couldn't protect yourself from what you can't control, or what you don't see until you hear it, till it explodes in your face. And so we were out on a preliminary patrol soon after I arrived there, and we were throwing hand grenades at like suspected positions, and the fellow next to me mishandled his grenade, and I got hit, and I got hit very badly. I was bleeding out. I was pumping blood out, and here's the part that I want you to know about. I'm in the United States Army. Of course, they went on the radio, and they called medevac, and a Marine unit in an old Sikorsky helicopter. The Marines have the oldest equipment, but they're the first in, last out. They really stand for what they mean. The Marines are Marines. They're head and shoulders into this, and so a helicopter came in immediately, and the door gunner, who was hanging off a strap out of the side of this old helicopter with an M60 mounted on a pipe, pulled the first aid kit off of the back of the helicopter and came in, and he put his thumb in my wound. I was bleeding from the neck and shoulder, and I was spouting blood. I was spouting taller than he was, right? Leaned over me with he still had the helmet on, with the microphone, and he hit me twice with morphine, one on each cheek, boom, boom, and he put that coagulant on me, and he literally saved my life. Got me to an aid station within 5 or 6 minutes, where the wound was cauterized. They stopped the bleeding, and I was then sent to a bigger base, a Marine base, which was about 2 miles away, and then they transported me to the hospital ship, the USS Repose, where I convalesced for a month. But the thing I want to tell you about that, the important part about that, is not that I'm wounded. All people are wounded in war. The Carthaginians and the Romans wounded each other. Every war is about the destruction of people and property. The problem is, I thought bad things happened to other people, right? I was 19 years old, and I was from New York City. What are you going to do to me, right? So I had that little street arrogance in me. Nonetheless, these guys, I was 19. That door gunner was 19. The co-pilot or navigation person in the chopper was 22, and the pilot was 24. Now, these guys came to get me. They're Marines, and they came to get me. They picked up the call. No one ordered them there. They turned and came in to this spot, which was confused and loud and hard to get to. They dropped that chopper in, and they saved my life. Now, I had the serendipity, or holy, whichever way you think about things bigger than us. I had the holy idea of meeting the guy who saved my life in a very odd and wonderful and unforeseen meeting with him. And he remembered it like I remember it, from a different perspective. And we're brothers. I can promise you that. And so how can I express what a veteran does to another except by these concrete, visceral ideals of integrity that we share. That's what a veteran is. That's what a veteran is. We're not a white paper that someone wrote and spent 6 months on, and then a 2-star general at the Pentagon reads at a round table. We're not that. And we're not people who, throw our medals on and walk around in a parade only. We do that, but we look kind of ragtag with baseball caps. And we're not Rambo, and we're not anything that anybody might think. What we are veterans who served each other, who came home from a war that was unpopular to a nation in turmoil, came home wounded, dead, broken, needing help. Post-traumatic stress then was called battle fatigue. Prior wars, it was called other things like shell shock. We came home to our mothers and fathers and our everybody, our girlfriends and everyone there that greeted us. And we came home to that place, that nation, that place that wanted us soon to forget what they were trying to forget. And it was our mothers and our lady friends that healed us. No one else did. And I came home to a family of support, big Italian American family in New York City, and they welcomed me, counted my fingers and toes. They thought I looked okay. But the next morning when my mother made breakfast for me, before anyone else was up, because I couldn't sleep, I didn't know how to sleep anymore in a bed. And I was too excited and too confused and too hurt. My guys were still there, and I'm home, and I'm eating cannolis, and they're in trouble. They're in harm's way. And so my mother, who in tears made this great big breakfast, and she put her hand on my shoulder, and she said, "Dominick, the boy I gave them is not the man who returned." And I spoke to her. She said, "What do you want? What do you expect to do? What do you care for?" She looked at the scar, and I had clean towels, and she was caring for me. And she said to me after I spoke to her, I said, "Mama, I'm confused. I don't understand. I don't know what I want to do, but I don't want to go. I don't know what I want to do. I want to read a book. I want to know something more about what the matter is." And she looked at me and very deeply and carefully said, "Dominick, wash your face, comb your hair, and go to work." And it turned out in my lifetime, and now I know it for sure, the best advice anyone ever gave me, ever. And so the having the power of family to return to is a saving grace. Not that there's not a struggle there, but there's someone there to hold me up. There's someone there to have a hug that lasts more than a pat on the back. There are people there to recognize you, not just to count your fingers and toes and see you're all right. And okay, the shrapnel's in you, but you look good. It's not that. It's people that understand the problem from a distance. It's an emotional issue. War is moral. Nobody thinks of it like that. And you can't come back from that without having post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, and probably both. Now, PTS, which is what we define it as, we made that a household word, meaning the Vietnam Veterans of America made PTS, post-traumatic stress, a household word. Now people use it when they have a car accident. They say, "You have post-traumatic stress disorder," and things that are not really trauma or categorized like that are. It might be an insurance company word, but I'm not sure. The phrase is taken from us and used for other reasons. But I don't call it disorder. Post-traumatic stress until the psychologists got a hold of this from the major universities, meaning the Ivy Leagues, and they wrote about it, they studied it, and they said, They have post-traumatic stress disorder. They call it the D, so PTSD, which I still disagree with. But we don't have a disorder. We're warriors who did what was asked of us beautifully and came home to a nation that couldn't understand us. And if you didn't have a family like mine, you had trouble. So post-traumatic stress is hard to define. It has 1,000 faces. It's a hero with 1,000 faces. So it could be emotional or more. It could scramble your brain so that your anxiety is so great, so deep that you can't think correctly, or you're so nervous from your anxiety that you don't feel right with anyone and you feel opposite or apart from them. Where's another veteran? I need to talk to somebody like that. You have that kind of a feeling. And it could be the result of memory or the view of such heinous events, such things. War is about the destruction of people and property. And, killing a baby, even if it's mistaken, and if you see that arm sticking out of the rubble of a good military kill, you hit this thing with a rocket launcher, and it went down, and there was a sniper in there, but there was also the bony arm of a baby sticking through the rubble. That'll stay with you. And it'll stay with you. It could show up when you're 55 at a barbecue, and you got a hamburger in your hand, and there's a child there, and you see the little Izod shirt, the little elbow, and it reminds you of, oops, that. And you don't want to eat the hamburger anymore. You don't want to talk to anyone. You need to go to God for that one, because a good military kill is not the same thing as what the moral structure that we have, especially if you believe that life has a sacred base. So a good military kill could hurt you for the rest of your life. Could. And not all of us are alike. So PTS is an issue that needs to be looked at carefully, psychologically, materially, socially, and warrior-like. You have to look at these as warriors who are now back at a place of peace. And there's so much more to talk about there. And I speak about this viscerally because that's the great part of the Vietnam Veterans of America. Everybody else that comes to a roundtable is reading a white paper that they did the research on. We speak from the gut. I'm talking straight at you, Senator Takano, Senator Fetterman, Congressperson Takano. I'm talking straight at you about what we need, why we need it, and what we're going to do if we don't get it. We're all responsible. We all survived the war. Everybody does. And so just to I could leave that, but I could speak to it forever because there are medical ideals about it that are, it's too much for me to begin to speak to here in somebody else's language, because I'm not a medical researcher, but I've read it. Most of it. So I won't speak in their language. I'll just let you leave this for the show so you get it. You get a sense of it. TBI is easier because it's traumatic brain injury, and it's a medical discernment. You can see literally on a scan the change in the frontal lobe of the brain. The result of that is this person, this soldier, is unable to make a reasonable decision. Now, that change in the brain, the change in the frontal lobe of the brain, comes from the repeated pounding in your ear. If you shoot a rifle, especially the rifles that we had, we could pop out 20 rounds in a that's in your ear. If you're getting mortared and every day, or you're near an artillery gun, or just popping out on rockets and mortar rounds that are coming into you, and you don't get hit, but you get blasted, you get thrown. Those things can hurt the brain, or in the new wars, which like an RPG could go into one of these Humvees that are armored, right? But it'll penetrate the Humvee in some sense and blow up the guys in the back of it, and you could be riding shotgun or a driver, and you don't get hurt, but you're blown. And if the vehicle's thrown over, you're hurt, but not from the blast. That shock can result in traumatic brain injury as well, or several of them, right? So traumatic brain injury comes from those concussions, and some people have studied this enough to believe that it's so associated with PTSD that it could be from viewing heinous events enough so that the frontal lobe of your brain is changed because you've seen so much human waste, so much that interrupts the moral center of what you think life is, which has a sacred base, if you're like that. And so the post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury have like I say, we're not an intellectual group. We're wolves, and we're at your door, and we're going to bite you if you don't listen to us, because we have we're a moral wolf pack, and we're out and about. And I'm in Washington, D.C. with God bless James McCormick. I want to bless guys like Grant Coates. I want to bless the people who do veteran homelessness. I want to bless the people who do toxic exposure for us. I want to send all of my best regards to all of those people who act as a unit for the betterment of veterans and their families. And we're just not counting heads. We just don't have memberships. We have functioning committees which save the country from what it can't do. And that's what a not-for-profit is. Greg, you got me talking now. I'm going to continue here because this is important.
I'm going to jump in for just a second. We're having some technical issues. So I'm going to do a little bit of speaking for Greg. He's going to fire me some questions if he has some. But I'm hoping you can talk about the brotherhood and sisterhood that you described, because that just surpasses the white papers, as they're called, and people that sit around a desk. You've experienced it firsthand, but as you're talking about it, the healing that must come from knowing that there's others that surrounded you, and you are still here today to surround others that find themselves in situations like this.
Sure, including others who weren't even present from other wars. The war that I have my eyes on is the Gulf War. There are 110,000 of those veterans who are just coming to light. And what I mean by that is when I first came home from Vietnam, from the military, I wanted to not be in it or be part of it. Didn't think of myself as needing to get anything more from the VA except what they decided I should get from a shrapnel wound, which partially disabled my right shoulder. I'm right-hand dominant, and the continued pain that I had and endured. I never even thought of asking for that. We don't do that. That's not the way I was raised. You don't do that. You don't ask for help that way. And so I wasn't aware of it till I probably was about 50 or 55, that I became cognizant of what the Veterans Administration should do. And it wasn't for me, it was for other soldiers, because I saw others return with the same scars that we had. All war is wrong, right? And I'm not soft on the enemy at all, or on the need perhaps, but I think it's wrong, because it's immoral. It's about killing and destroying things, and that's an awful. Bring it to its simple truth, and it's an awful compress for us. We're following orders, and we're doing it well, and we're trained like superstars, right? It still remains a dichotomy in my own mind, and that's part of what we carry. That here and there, that yes, this is right because of the political nature of this, which is probably incorrect. But if you know enough about it, but not right if you understand what it's like to kill someone or to be part of that, and that's those things are it's a dichotomy in you. It's an understanding only another veteran could accept, and that's why we can get along so well. Not that we got along really well when we started the Vietnam Veterans of America, because we were arguing about everything. We were throwing chairs at each other across the room. We were first the Vietnam Veterans Against the War, and then we became an organization for benefits with Muller, John Muller, who was a very terribly wounded Marine, and we've evolved into a place in Congress, a place on the soil of America, which is important. And we save each other, and we save those who are now coming back to us. And we know better because we weren't served. So we gave ourselves our own service. We honored ourselves. We respected ourselves. We argued with ourselves about how to put this together. And we became the organization to deal with in Congress. And we're serious and we're powerful and we get it, right? And so who can deny us, right? We get ahead of the line in Congress. If there's Tesla there or the United Auto Workers or whomever is there, people want to see us because we have something to say that's not for profit. We have something to say that is for the greater good of our heroes, the people who are in harm's way right now for us, right? And so all the confusions and dichotomies about what's right and wrong come into our guts. We handle inside, it's an inside job, what's right or wrong personally. It's a personal issue. But the Gulf War vets are, I think they suffer the same issues that we did with toxic exposure. And nobody wanted to listen to them. And we went to the Department of War and spoke about why these veterans who are coming into the Veterans Administration hospitals with the same issues that we had from Agent Orange, from toxic exposure, and why they were being treated for that, but they weren't allowed to make a claim for disability. And so with the help of guys like Ron Brown, who studied this, and we have perfect evidence and information. So when I went to the Department of War, this soldier who suffered this, who's been doing research for 15 years because he was denied by the Veterans Administration to apply for veterans benefits, and he's completely disabled from toxic exposure. He did a research on this, and as a lawyer, he gave me a file that was in sequence, in order, and full of perfect evidence. All I had to do was read it and only adjust it a little bit, and I was ready for trial. And he was the star witness. So we went to the DOW with this, and how could they deny it? So I opened the conversation this way. They're opposed to this idea that this toxic exposure was their fault and that they are allowed to apply for significant disability benefits. And they're opposed to that for the same reason everybody opposes everything. Follow the path of the money. So this is going to cost them. There's 110,000 Gulf War vets who are subject to this mandate that we created, that this ability to change the medical VA prowess so that they will inform the VA that this person is struggling from a disease from toxic exposure and therefore allows them to apply for disability benefits for them and their families. That's what we do. And I opened that conversation in that room with them by saying, look, Dominick Yezzo of Vietnam Veterans of America General Counsel, there are a couple of ways we can do this. And one is we can be adversarial. And if that's the case, I have a body of evidence to present in sequence, and you're going to be here till tomorrow because you listen to everything that I say and present. Otherwise, after that, I'm going to ask for the same thing, and you're not going to relent. Otherwise, we can agree that we have an issue here regarding our soldiers who returned honorably and are falling into the same medical needs that we did 35, 40 years ago. And you have to listen to this, and you need to partner with us. And so it's your choice. I'll deal with you in any way you want. It's that kind of thing. And I had Tom Burke with me, and Ron Brown, and James McCormick. And it was a perfect success. We got them to agree. They met with us again. They changed the language that was being asked to be changed without going through Congress and asking a bill to become a law and taking those steps, which are beautiful, but it takes time. And you have to get several senators and congresspersons on them. This one happened like that because we tell the truth, and because we're a wolf that bites. We're a wolf pack that will tear you up with honor and with righteousness. And so I don't know if I've answered your question about the unity of us, but that's the way we roll. That's the way we function. And it's not that we're all lawyers. Some of us are simply human advocates, and some of us are medical experts, and some of us are fathers and mothers with disabled children from what we believe is toxic exposure. Some of us are wounded. Some of us are experts in veteran homelessness. That's who we are.
I was just going to come back to the injuries that you sustained. And I'm wondering, was the physical part of it, you described what it was like to be lifted in a helicopter and have blood coming out of your neck and not knowing, am I going to make it? What's going to happen here? But was that physical, or was it the emotional toll, or both, that really after the war brought you into who you are today and how you represent? What was it, the physical, the emotional, or both?
I really don't know, because my man who saved my life hit me with 2 hits of morphine, and I had never taken drugs before. I'm going to tell you what, I remember being a very, very, very happy man. I was out to lunch. I was gone. I remembered actually being in a womb. It was like really warm and cared for, something like that. And the helicopter banked. I was already strapped in onto the floor of it. They're rushing around, and I was like, "Hello, Dolly." I was gone, and I know from that experience why drug addicts are drug addicts. I've never experienced anything like that before. And I remember when I got to the field hospital, it was a tent in the jungle, right? They rushed me in. The doctor asked me some questions. I remember he said, he was yelling, because they run from table to table. They take the most critical first, right? And I was bleeding bad. I was bleeding out. And he said, he was yelling, "Who hit this kid with morphine?" He's going, how many cc's did you hit this kid with? He's trying to determine my consciousness. But I remember him yelling that out. He was a captain. And so the experience of that was worse on the hospital ship, because when I got there, which is within they bounced me to the small marine base at Quang Tri, which is on the sea there. And I spent some time with doctors overlooking me and stabilizing me in one of those marine Quonset huts. And then I was quickly airlifted to the USS Repose, which was in the Gulf of Tonkin. And when I got on that ship, I certainly wasn't feeling sorry for myself, because I was ambulatory. And that ship was like there was so much, so many broken bodies, and we were hamburger. And what I mean is our war was vascular. The kinds of weapons that were used on us caused vascular injuries. The Gulf War and subsequent wars to that are orthopedic. These young soldiers are coming back missing arms and legs because of the explosions underneath them, and the planted bombs that they step on. And it's all the same horror, right? But it's different. So this war is orthopedic. Our war was vascular. We were chopped up. We had shrapnel and bullet wounds, a lot, and that ship was a mess. It was full of wounded young men, and retreated by very dedicated doctors and nurses, and I stopped feeling sorry for myself once I got on that ship, and I realized how ugly war is by looking at so many, and they were worse than me. I was on a top bunk because I was ambulatory, but the young boys beneath me they couldn't move. It's just, and crowded in. It was like a hospital ship, like a Navy ship, Navy bunks, and like that. But I remember I began to read on that ship. I confessed to Almighty God on that ship. I missed my home. I was worried what the kind of news my parents got, because there was no cell phones then. So they got a telegram. And I worried about them worrying, and my brothers and my sister. I worried about all of them worrying. And there's no way to contact them. I remember at night I'd go out and walk the decks, walk, and I would look at the land from that distance. Maybe we were like a mile offshore, maybe more, but I could see all the bombs exploding, all the bright and then dim, all that explosion, all over the place, and the place was a mess. It was a mess. And I didn't know whether I was going to go home or what, but I was on that ship for a month, and they thought I was able to go back to my unit, so they left me off in Da Nang. But I was scared. Before then, I thought bad things happened to other people, but now I was going back to my unit. I had a problem, and that problem was to survive and to take care of the people around me. And I did.
Let's talk about when you came home. I remember you talking about this on another radio show. The role that your mother had. I remember you talking about the next morning and the stability of get dressed, go to work, and that normalcy. What did that build towards next? Because I think when you make a choice there, when you come back.
Yeah, I get it. Remember, I was still young. I was still 20 and a warrior, and everybody else was in college or driving cars, and buying new Mustangs, and I was still young, and I was hurt, and I was I don't know how to. I was separate and apart for most of it. It wasn't a time to be a warrior. It wasn't a time to walk around in your uniform. I can promise you that. That wasn't hip or cool. It wasn't that. Not like now. But with the atmosphere now, we created that in America. Vietnam veterans created that. It used to be a dishonor. We wait at the airport for all those Gulf War and post veterans to come home. When they come home, we're there waiting for them. We're on the tarmac, 3 a.m. We get it, and because we know what it was like for us to come home. But everything they enjoy, all this military honor now, is because of us. we kicked the table over. We hurt the money changers. We got in the center of what was not given and why it wasn't given, and we put them in order. We put the government to look at us, the ones you sent away. You threw us into the fire and then cut the cord. Sorry, Mr. Senator. Sorry, Mr. President. Sorry, we're here and we have something to say. Whether your war was right or wrong, we did it. And we did it well. And we're 57 plus gone and 1 million wounded. What? Come on. And the issue with coming home from war is the same struggle in World War II, except those men were away from their families for sometimes 4 years or more. They didn't even know their children when they came home. And they had post-traumatic stress too. Nobody really understood that. So you had to eat it. You had to keep going. You had to get going. Universities opened up in those years, and America went to work and built roads and cars and refrigerators. We were great. But for us, there was nothing to return home to. And we came home alone. So I didn't come home with my unit. I didn't come home with a ship with the 1st Air Cavalry Division, land in New York and watching a parade. I came home alone on a flight from Fort Lewis, Washington. And 36 hours after leaving Vietnam, I was in my mother's kitchen. So I'm not answering your question, I don't think, but
yeah, you are. You are.
My mother's. So you healed us. This is healing for me. Healing is being, and it's not like healing is a scar, right? So we're all scarred, but that's all right. That's all right. Well, life is life. I mean, life is not just difficult for veterans. It's difficult for everybody's walking around on this planet trying to figure it out. Everybody's carrying a weight of gain and loss, of joy and fear and triumph and failure. Everybody carries that. So it's not just we're alone, but we're special because we honor what is forgotten. And we honor what the government wants to forget in a hurry. It seems that they would rather us to come home and just take what we give you and go away. But we're expensive. The war's expensive. Taking care of veterans is expensive. I get it. You can't have one without the other. And the way a nation treats its veterans is the way a nation will rock and roll. I promise you that. So we're rocking and rolling. Part of the reason is because of Vietnam Veterans of America. And America's beauty is that it has the structures legally of not-for-profit corporations or federal bankruptcy. Where else do you find that in the world? So just for a little picture legally, like the bankruptcy courts allow a good faith debtor to rehabilitate him or herself. So you could spend $30,000 in Target or one of those stores that you could spend $30,000 in over 6 months. And as long as you didn't buy fine jewelry or something else, then you could claim bankruptcy. And as long as you haven't done that in the recent past, you might have the court discharge your debt and you can still keep your car in your home. What country is going to do that? Another thing for more close to us is we are a not-for-profit, a 501c19. That means that we have a special membership, and the membership has to be all Vietnam veterans, 75% of it, and up to 97% in other ways. I don't want to bother you or bore you with this now, but that not-for-profit is in place. We don't get taxed because we're doing something that the government can't do, which is serving veterans with with an honor, the way that they can't do it. And the government recognizes that. That's why they would have a not-for-profit. Not-for-profit's not the law. It's a tax code. It becomes the law when people break it, right? Cheat on taxes, stuff like that. Then it becomes a lawyer's issue. But it's a tax code. And it's a tax code that's a grant by a wonderful idea. It's a democratic process. It allows for our organization to do all of this for homeless veterans and for toxic exposure, and to beg for research and to get the research accomplished medically, and to have veterans incarcerated serve, because we don't leave any veteran behind. And all of these great committees, post-traumatic stress committee, committees for Agent Orange, all of this work, which ultimately goes to Congress, because they can't do it. So we introduce ourselves as lobbyists, and then we demand what we need for him and her and him and her, and for their children. And now we're looking for their grandchildren, because we understand from a medical research, which is beginning, that the toxic exposure can last for 7 generations. It's possible that 7 generations from the toxically exposed veteran, their great grandchildren could end up with a deformity based on some of that toxicity. I'll tell you about the toxic exposure for the Gulf War veterans. What we fought for is there's a base camp, which I'm going to get the name for it right now. It's Qamishiyya in Iraq. And that base camp, after operations and that successful push into Iraq early on, that one, that the General Schwarzkopf invasion way back then, they got Saddam Hussein, and they captured all of his weapons and all of his military might, whatever it was. They captured it, and then when we're about to leave there, they built an enormous burn pit. They built this hole, and how do I explain the burn pit? It's like an enormous lake or a pond that's shoveled out. You could drop a 1,000-pound bomb, and the crater will give you the beginning of it, right? And then you shovel it out. You build a kind of wall around it, and the military can get anything done anywhere, anytime. It's its beauty and its power. And in there, they throw everything and they burn it, because it's stuff they don't want to carry back. It's not prudent or costly to continue with this. And they throw maybe a broken Jeep in there, or 100 Jeeps, all our old clothing, guns that are deformed, and diesel fuel, all of that. Just metal, rubber, cloth, gunk, awful junk, machine oil, all of that. And they light it and they burn it. Now, this is supposed to be, this pit is supposed to be a safe distance away from the base camp. And why I mentioned Qamishiyya is because there was a base camp within the distance, an unsafe distance to the base camp. And there were 110,000 soldiers that came through this base camp, and that was burning. That was burning for a long time. And part of the burn was the rockets that we captured from Saddam Hussein, that were rockets that was tipped with sarin gas. So these rockets were to explode, and there were poison gas in there. And part of those things were in there. Those rockets were in there, and they exploded along with other things that we had in there. Bullets popped, and hand grenades popped, and mortars popped, and things, and badly placed or damaged weaponry and ordnance popped, and everything's burning and popping, right? And the smoke that rose out of there went across and into the base camp at Camisea. And the reason I know this is because Ron Brown did the research on this so far as to go and look at Google Earth and get the Google Earth maps from those days when it was burning, and those days that he was at Camisea. And the wind pattern goes right across the base. They smelled it. They slept in the stink. It was toxic. It was poison. And Ron Brown is ill because of it. And he's the guy, the man, the soldier, the sergeant who was on it. He was a real soldier, Southern guy that was full of the joy of the military. He loved the military. He was strack. He was in order, in shape, on it. And he's ill. He can't walk without a cane. And he can't sit anywhere for a long time without being completely uncomfortable. And his wife and his daughter struggle to keep him healthy, as well as him struggling himself. So he did this research. He's the one that gave me those two Redwells, which is those lawyer folders full of evidence. And I looked at the evidence over it. It was perfectly sequenced with photos and expert witnesses who testified and notarized documents. I was ready to shoot right from the hip because of this fellow's work. It was a lawyer's dream, right? So he's the one who's been fighting this for so long. James McCormick, who is the government affairs person, who's a spark plug, got this meeting called, and President Berg pulled my coat and said, I said, I'd be happy to push this around. As a lawyer, it's a dream, right? Let's go. Vietnam Veterans of America against the United States of America and the Department of War. I even like the sound of that, right? It's a lawyer's dream, right? Anyway, so it's that kind of thing. It's that thoroughness that comes from a visceral place that the service factors into our cause for, please help this one and that one. Please look at this. We're not asking for anything we don't deserve. All we want you to do is to recognize that we're straight shooters. And if you won't listen to that, we're a wolf pack. Get out of the way. Because we have the prowess. We can expose you. There's a communication department which is kind of kind to the world that we look at. But that communications department could shoot off a press release every day about what we do. It's possible, and that's all to expose what a veteran is and to expose what the government is. And my idea, the older I get, the more I want to make the government a partner rather than an adversary. It works better. It gets things done faster. And who on earth could deny what we are saying? There is not a modicum of disorganized ideas there. These ideas rule our world. It's the truth. Who could deny this truth? That this man is suffering, and there's thousands and thousands more from the toxic exposure. What are we asking you for? Just to listen to us. Or you want to help us? Bring us the whole Walter Reed medical research team and put them on toxic exposure. That would be even greater. So it's not that we need to be adversary, but we can be, and we are and have been. But it's that we have issues that we care about. And the only people that can care about these issues correctly, and it's not that everybody else is not well-meaning, are veterans, because we get it. And so To answer your question about what I felt when I was wounded and what I feel, how that changed my life, of course it changed my life. But the good thing too is I had the GI Bill, right? And I went to college and I fell in love with it. I didn't have the skills yet, but I managed to get the skills. And I took at the City University of New York a bachelor's degree. What an honor for my mother, who had the 5 pictures of her children. And I say 4 because we graduate high school, she put those pictures up in the living room. My brother, who got a GED years later, she took a picture of him when he was 30 and he had a mustache. He looked older than us, and we still tease him about it. But he's on the wall, right? So my mother was delighted, university graduate. Whoa. And then I took a master's degree. And then I applied to law school, and I was accepted in the City University of New York law school. And so I have 3 degrees from the City University of New York. I'm a product of the City University. I was born in Manhattan. I'm a New York. And here I am on this show from Arizona.
Wow, I'm syncing with you as you're expressing this information and how it deeply impacts vets, and it comes down not just to numbers, but to these people that have served their country and served their country well. And after being in media for 25 plus years in mainstream media, I understand that oftentimes our government can't be everywhere at once, and they don't always have all the information. And so I think it's really important to, like you said, build those bridges and blocks and show them and be able to speak to them. I'm somebody that goes source to source. So I want to be able to deliver facts, and not dispute it, and to be able to carry those stories and not giving the government a way out ever. But it's so important that they understand the cost of these things, and that the public bring them alongside. That's, everybody wants to work towards resolutions. And so things don't have to be as secretive. I think that's a part of it in today's age. We look at rapid deployments. We look at the Department of Defense, the President's office. They rapidly respond to crisis. So, we don't have to be slow about things. We can be at a much faster rate of helping our vets, our dear vets. And that's what this is about. We are actively recruiting here at Continue Mission. If you are watching at home, you are our heroes. Thank you for your service. And we need you. All of our generations need to come together and work as one and sync together, because we all want the same thing for this country. And we are a shining hill, or we're a shining city on the hill. So we have to maintain that. And that flag means that it stands for freedom. And so we're going to work towards any way we can help here at the Veteran Channel. Greg has given me the green light. We want to invite you back. If it's something you'd consider doing, we'd love to have you back. I know Greg will have some follow-up questions.
Of course. Be happy to. Yeah.
And I want to give you just a time, give you back the microphone if there's anything you want to share. I want to promote your book. So I want to touch on your book, and then I'm going to give you the microphone in case there's anything else you want to share with us. But tell us a little bit about this book and where we can get it.
Simple book. I kept a diary when I was in Vietnam, and I wrote every day. And through another series of very, very fortunate events, it was published by a major trade book publisher called Franklin Watts, out of New York on Fifth Avenue. And it made a splash initially. It was the first book out about Vietnam, and its popularity zipped up and then zipped open and out because the war ended in 75. This came out in 74, and the war was winding down. Nobody even wanted to look at it. Nobody even wanted to hear the word Vietnam. But it's I don't think I could do it again because it's completely underwritten, but it's completely true. It's what I could. And I thought I'd write this if I wanted to leave something for my mother and father and family if I didn't make it home, if I got killed in the war. So that was its purpose. I carried a diary, and this is the diary. This is the journal I kept. Yeah.
That's incredible. We need to hear these stories. These stories are not going away, and I believe they're for such a time as now. So thank you. From my heart, thank you for coming today and sharing. And wow. Is there anything else you have to
well, of course,
share?
of course. And there's so much more. And I know this was successful because I feel the way I do at successful things. There's always more food to eat. There's always more to enjoy and do. And I feel the same here. There's more to say, so much more to say. So I want to thank you for that. But most importantly, I want you to know that we are going to be around, and we're going forward in the future. We serve veterans who from other wars need us. And I want you to know that the Vietnam veterans are not going away, that we would encourage others to look at us as a viable strength for veterans' benefits and for the benefits for veterans' families. Look at us for medical research, for academic progress in what war means to individual Americans, and to look at us as an organization that was begun by sergeants, not officers, which is now at the highest echelons. And never again will one generation of veterans abandon another.
That is the true warrior ethos. And thank you again for coming. And I'm just going to end on just saying thank you to all of our vets. And don't forget, you can go on vva.org, and there's a way to connect, and you can donate. And that's vva.org. So this is Continue Mission on behalf of Greg and Dominic and myself. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you next time.
Welcome to Continue Mission Radio with Captain James McCormick. By veterans, for veterans. Guest hosts tonight are author Greg Meakin and Miss Val, our military radio gal. Continue Mission starts now.